You won't believe what Cliff Richard just revealed about Elvis Presley, and how it changed everything we thought we knew about his rise to fame. Picture this. It's post-war Britain. Rationing's still a thing. Teenagers are desperate for something new, something loud, raw, and real. And then, across the airwaves, this electric sound from America crashes in. It's Elvis. And on the other side of the world, a young boy named Harry Webb hears that voice and feels something shift. That boy would grow up to become Cliff Richard. But before he was Britain's first true rock star, before the knighthood, before the chart-topping singles and stadium tours, he was just a kid from Lucknow, born into British colonial India in 1940, who moved to England in 1948 after India gained its independence. His family settled in a small town called Cheshire. Life was hard, money was tight, but one thing was crystal clear. Harry had music in his soul. And not just any music. He was hooked on the bold, rebellious energy of American rock and roll. Elvis Presley, Little Richard, Buddy Holly. These were the giants that shaped his teenage years. Inspired and determined, he chose a name to match his new identity. Cliff, something strong and grounded. And Richard, a nod to Little Richard, his idol. In 1958, Cliff Richard hit the scene with his band The Drifters, later known as The Shadows, and their debut single, Move It. That song didn't just chart, it changed the game. Suddenly Britain had a rock star of its own. He wasn't just a voice, he was the face of rebellion for British teens. His look, his swagger, his sound. It was new, magnetic, and entirely unforgettable. But even as the Beatles and the British invasion came roaring in, Cliff didn't fade. He evolved. In the 70s, while others were trying to cling to their youth, Cliff leaned into something deeper. Songs like Devil Woman and We Don't Talk Anymore revealed a more mature, reflective artist. He dabbled in disco, flirted with synth pop, and proved he could hang with any trend without losing himself. At the heart of Cliff Richard's journey is his faith. Becoming a committed Christian in the 60s changed everything. While others spiraled into the party scene, Cliff kept his distance. No scandalous headlines, no wild nights. Just a man determined to live by his beliefs. That meant singing about love and heartbreak, sure, but also about hope, spirituality, and purpose. His holiday single, Mary's Boy Child with Boney M, wasn't just a hit. It was a declaration of who he was. And yet, fame came with a price. He never married, never had children, and always kept a tight lid on his private life. After losing his father in 1961, just as his star was rising, Cliff felt a deep responsibility toward his mother and sisters. He couldn't let them down. He couldn't let himself down. In a letter to his first serious girlfriend, he poured out his heartbreak, admitting that his life didn't allow room for lasting relationships. That letter, which didn't surface until decades later, was raw, honest, and devastating. He had his share of romantic sparks. Actress Una Stubbs, dancer Jackie Irving, and most famously, tennis star Sue Barker. The tabloids went wild over that one. There were rumors of a proposal. He even admitted years later that he almost popped the question, but couldn't quite bring himself to do it. Why? Because deep down he knew. He loved her, but not quite enough. And he never wanted to do anything halfway. His connection to Olivia Newton-John? Another almost. Another might have been. He joked that every man in the 70s was in love with her. But for him, it was real. Unfortunately, she was already spoken for. And once again, timing wasn't on his side. Through it all, Cliff kept moving forward. He sold over 250 million records, had #1 hits in 5 straight decades, and even became the first rock star to be knighted. But perhaps his greatest test came in 2014, when false allegations of misconduct rocked his world. For 2 years, he endured a brutal investigation, endless media coverage, and unimaginable stress, only to be fully cleared in 2016. Instead of disappearing, Cliff came back stronger. He took on the BBC in court and won, becoming a powerful voice for press reform and personal privacy. That moment didn't break him. It proved just how resilient he truly is. And now, after decades of quiet respect, Cliff has finally spoken out, in depth, about the man who started it all, Elvis Presley. He didn't just admire Elvis, he felt him. It was like the world stopped, Cliff said, remembering the first time he heard Elvis sing. I had never heard anything like that voice. It was like he unlocked something inside me. That inspiration lit the fuse for his entire career, but with it came pressure. Constant comparisons, high expectations, the shadow of a legend. Cliff says being linked to Elvis was an honor, yes, but it also forced him to find his own identity within that legacy. And the one thing he still regrets? Never meeting him. I came so close once, he said, his voice cracking. Then he was gone. Elvis's death in 1977 wasn't just a shock to the music world. It was a personal loss for Cliff. It felt like losing a brother, he shared. A spiritual brother, an artistic twin. In a moment of deep reflection, Cliff talked not just about Elvis the performer, but Elvis the person. The vulnerability, the kindness, the quiet faith they both shared. People remember the hips and the voice, Cliff said, but he was also deeply spiritual. That's something I've always connected with. And maybe that's the most powerful part of this whole story. One legend quietly honoring another. Not with fanfare, but with humility. Cliff Richard, a man who's given his entire life to music, love, and faith, finally letting us in on the one influence that made it all possible. So if you've ever been moved by a song, inspired by a voice, or driven by a dream, remember this. Even icons have heroes. And sometimes, the fire they spark never goes out. If you enjoyed this journey through Cliff Richard's life and legacy, don't forget to hit that like button, share with a friend, and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes stories of music's greatest legends. There's always more to the story, and you won't want to miss it.